So again, here's the heart. You have the right side of the heart, and you have the left side of the heart. You have 4 chambers. On the top, you have 2 atria, the right atrium and the left atrium. On the bottom, you have the larger ventricles. You have the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So on the right side of the heart is 1 pump. You are going to take blood into the heart, into the right atrium. We will review this in detail. The blood will get pumped from the right atrium into the right ventricle and out to the lungs, back into the left atrium, through the left ventricle, and out into the body. The blood, which is blue, is deoxygenated on the right side of the heart. The blood on the left side of the heart has already received oxygen from the lungs, so this is oxygenated blood. So this is a nice diagram showing the heart as a box. So we have the right side of the heart with the right atrium and right ventricles, and the left side of the heart, left atrium and left ventricles. You are looking at the heart as if you were looking at someone's chest. So this would be the left side of their body, therefore their left atrium and left ventricle. So let's go through the cardiac cycle. So the blood comes to the right side of the heart through what's called the vena cava. Here we see the inferior vena cava taking blood from the lower part of the body into the right side of the heart. This is the superior vena cava, which comes from the head and shoulders. These come together into the right atrium. So all blood without oxygen returns via the veins through the superior and inferior vena cava into the right atrium. What's going to happen is the right atrium is going to swell. Then all of the myocardium is going to contract, pushing that blood into the right ventricle. So this is a valve. It's going to push through the valve, and the right ventricle is going to swell. Then the right ventricle will contract, but when it contracts, these valves are going to snap shut. The blood will get pushed through these valves and out into the lungs. The lungs will oxygenate the blood, and the blood will then, from the pulmonary vein, go back into the left side of the atrium. The left atrium will swell with blood. The myocardium will contract, push the blood through the bicuspid valves, through the valves. The left ventricle will swell with blood and then will contract through the myocardium, through the aortic valves, and out to the body. This blood on the right is deoxygenated, but then picks up blood, oxygen in the lungs. This side is oxygenated and carries blood to the body. One of the reasons the right side of the heart is so much smaller than the left has to carry the blood all the way to the body, so it's a much larger and more muscular system. When you're looking at the heart, blood always enters the heart from the atria, and it leaves the heart from the ventricles. But these are 2 different pumps. This right side pumps blood to the lungs. The left side pumps blood to the body. The right side does not have oxygen yet, but it picks it up in the lungs, carries it back to the left atrium, to the left ventricle, and out into the body. As you may imagine, all of this, or some of this, has to happen at the same time. So these 2 pumps are working, but they're working at the same time. So as blood is filling deoxygenated blood from the body is filling the right atrium, oxygenated blood from the lungs is at the same time filling the left atrium. They then contract. Blood gets pushed into the right ventricle from the right atrium, and blood from the left atrium gets pushed into the left ventricle. Then they swell with blood, and at the same time, the right and left ventricles contract. Blood from this side goes to the lungs, and blood from this side goes to the rest of the body. Now, when you listen to a heartbeat, you hear a lub-dub, lub-dub. Those lub-dub heart sounds are actually the sound of the valves snapping closed. So the lub is the snapping closed of these valves that are not pictured. Maybe we can find another picture here for you. No, we're not seeing the pictures. I apologize. So the first set of valves snap shut. That's the lub. When they contract, they snap shut. Blood gets pushed through, and when the ventricles contract, these valves snap shut. So we have lub-dub, 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 lub-dub. Again, contraction of the atria happens at the same time as contraction of the ventricles. So the large vessel off of the left ventricle is called the aorta. It's about an inch wide. If you rupture the aorta, you tend not to survive. So the aorta is which takes the blood away from the heart, eventually branching out into different branches, with the very first branch actually being to the heart itself. So here's a picture of the aorta. As it's coming off, it looks very odd because it actually goes up over the heart. This is called the aortic arch. And the very first vessels off the aorta are the coronary arteries. So these coronary arteries go around the heart. So the word coronary actually means to go around. So you have a right coronary artery, and you have the circumflex and left coronary arteries. The largest and most important artery is the anterior descending, which is often the artery that, when gets clotted, will actually take your life because it goes to the left ventricle. You get a clot over here, you may survive it. So a heart attack is a myocardial infarction. The word infarction means cell death. So death of the myocardial cells. Plaques will slowly build up with poor diet and lack of exercise. If the artery becomes entirely occluded, then the heart muscle that the blood vessel feeds will die, and that is an actual infarct. When you have a heart attack and you go to the hospital, the pain that you are feeling is called ischemic pain, or it's the pain from lack of oxygen to the heart muscle, and it is very sharp and painful chest pain. Now you could go to the heart and they go to the hospital with a presumed heart attack and not actually have had a heart attack because you did not actually get cell death of the muscle, you just had an ischemic attack. The first thing the hospital will do after they've stabilized you is take enzymes from your blood to see if any chemicals of death of cells will show up, and that will tell them that you've had a heart attack or if you did not have a heart attack.